This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
And Scott Tabor is an equal opportunity guest. He joins us now via the phone line. Scott, good morning. I say,
how you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm okay. I don't think Greg Byrne, the athletics director at Alabama, though, is doing that good.
Yeah, I don't think he's having a great day.
No,
he's having a great day.
He hadn't had a good year, man. I mean, if you look at that timeline with you got the Brandon Miller situation and Darius Miles and Jaden Bradley and everything involved with that. You've got an Alabama basketball recruit. You've got someone within compliance in his own department. I mean, the list just keeps piling up in Tuscaloosa. I mean, surely the NCAA is going to hit him with the lack of institutional control at some point if things like this keep happening.
I don't think King Saban's going to let that happen. You know, you would think the NCAA would look in there and start looking a little bit harder at their program. But, you know, sometimes when you're dealing with, I would say just when you're dealing with young guys, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, things are going to happen. But a lot of this stuff is coming from the coaching staff, and I think they feel maybe a little privileged and get away with things they shouldn't get away with. But we'll see. I don't think anything from the NCAA is going to happen, though.
Well, and you alerted me. I was unaware of this until you said something. They crushed Vandy last night, the best team in the East. They beat them 11-2. I mean, how does that happen?
Well, you don't really want to minimize the effect the coach has on the team, but sometimes the lack of a coach, something going on, can kind of fire a team up. In football and basketball, you see it more than you do in baseball, where, I mean, that's a physical game. They just play a little harder for their coach or for whatever would have happened. In baseball, it's still pitching and catching and throwing and hitting, and so it's still going up there and playing a game. And you hear that all the time. You see us with Georgia. On paper, we should have just beat the snot out. We should have gone down and swept them, even if at their place.
Yeah. And
everybody said, well, their pitching hadn't been very good. Well, their pitching wasn't good because they were walking a lot of people. They didn't walk a lot of people the weekend we played them, and their hitting stats were head and shoulders above ours and one top in the league, up and down the lineup. And so they're all Division I SEC baseball players. People tend to forget that. There's no scrubs. There's no scrubs. You're looking up and down the lineup, even on every team. There's no scrubs. Our guys on our young guys on our team, and some of even the older guys that are struggling a little bit, it's not because they're bad pitchers. It's because they're having trouble with control. And so it all comes down to little things. When those little things add up and they get them all back in line, all of a sudden your team is tough, and so that goes week to week to week.
So as a former Razorback pitcher in the College World Series, Scott, with Arkansas's pitching right now, you've got Brady Tygart back. Hagen Smith is getting on the mound tonight. Gage Wood has been good. Holland's been dealing with the legs, so he hasn't been as strong these last two starts. I mean, are the only three guys you trust right now Gage Wood, Brady Tygart, and Hagen Smith on this pitching staff?
Well, that's one of the things that we've always talked about is every time early in the season, all the way through the fall, and then early in the season, all of your outings against some of the directional schools and midweek games, and building up to this point, pitchers especially, all they're doing is trying to gain trust, because the coach has to know what he's throwing out there. You could say, well, I know I'm throwing out there a guy that they can't hit his fastball. He's throwing 128 miles an hour, for goodness sake, but he's knocking the backstop down and knocking mascots out. So we know that he can throw hard. We trust that, but we know he also is not going to throw strikes. So all they're doing is building trust up to this point. And that can vary from week to week to week. You can have one bad outing, that's okay, but you have two bad outings in a row where you're doing the exact same thing twice. They lose trust. They're not going to put you back out there, unless the game's out of line or they're so out of whack, and it's a midweek game, and they know they need to get you out there. So it's in that point they trust those certain guys, but they also know that the guys they recruited, all the young guys that they recruited, they know they have good stuff. Fouch has great stuff. Bobby has great stuff. They're just cutting. Bobby, I think, is picking around too much. He's a little scared of the strike zone right now because it seemed like in his mind every time I threw a good strike, they're hitting it out of the park. Well, they weren't good strikes. They were cut right down the middle of the plate, right where you want them. You know, belt high a little bit less. Those aren't good strikes. Those are just strikes. So he's got to get his confidence back that he can work the corners and he can keep the ball down or elevate when he needs to, and all of them need that. And that can just come and go. You can have one good bullpen during the week, and then you come to the weekend and you feed off that bullpen you had. And so, man, I was just killing the bullpen. Of course, there's no hitters in the bullpen.
It's like the driving range in golf.
Yeah.
You go to the driving range and you hit it.
I'm a driving range PGA golfer. It's just weird. You put a flag out there, don't know what happens.
It's different.
It's that's exactly what it is. Ty, you hit the nail on the head, and it's a lot of it's mental, and they all have physical gifts that very few people get. And so they've got those gifts. They just got to channel it, and mentally help that mental toughness. And that's part of the mental toughness game. You have to know that you can do what they said you to do.
You mentioned midweeks. Now, those are all done. Dave Van Horn asked about that yesterday. He's happy that gets some relievers some rest, and maybe they can use them not just once but twice on the weekend. I think another benefit that we could find out that could take effect tonight is Hagen Smith's known for a week. He was going to be the Friday night starter, according to Dave Van Horn. What is that adjustment like, going from the bullpen, going from pitching 1/2 times over the weekend to starting and pitching a significant amount more of innings and pitches, Scott?
There's no real difference. He prepares. If you're going to pitch on the weekend and you're going to pitch on the weekend, now you don't know if it may be Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, but you're coming up. You throw your bullpens and you have your long toss days, and you do a certain amount of running, and you do a certain amount of this, a certain amount of that. You kind of get in the schedule. He has always been basically a starter. Now, his start may start in the fourth inning, and he knows he's going to go in and get the ball in the fourth inning, and he's going to go out there. They want him to finish the game. Now all he's doing is starting the beginning of the game, and they want the 5 or 6 innings out of him up front instead of on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And so the formula they've been using is really, really working out, and it's the one game at a time formula. Because again, they have the talent, even after they've used their 3 or 4 guys that are they're all studs, but the 3 or 4 guys they really, really have some confidence in, they can tie those other guys together and try to scratch out a couple of wins, on the backside. They want to win that first game, especially when you're on the road. And so he won't prepare any differently. He's probably excited. It just, it's a mental thing as far as being, I'm Friday night starter. I'm the man. And that's a good feeling to have, but I don't think it's necessarily going to change his preparation.
You bring up the road, Scott, and I'll let you go with this. What are the concerns that you have based on how different this team has been playing away from Baum-Walker Stadium compared to playing at home? What are the stark differences that you see as we let you go?
You would think that it wouldn't be that much different. And the biggest thing was playing on the road, and back when I was playing, it was the same thing. You go into their park, the fans are a little different. You don't get quite as much encouragement from the fans when you're on the road. You get encouragement, but it's not encouragement to do well. Things are different. Your travel's different. Your routine is different. You're sleeping in a hotel bedroom, and you've got a roommate in there, and just in the same room. Right? We're at home. You have your own room possibly. So the food is different. You eat all your meals with the team. And the routine is just a little different. For hitters, the hitting backdrop is different. Even for pitchers, which is a really weird thing, your visual backdrop is different. Sometimes it's lighter, darker. People moving around. The netting's different. It's just you throw into a different backdrop. In reality, if they really focus on what they're supposed to be focusing on, you're not focusing on the whole picture. The pitcher's focus is on the mitt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hitting the mitt, outside low, inside high. And so it's a focus thing. You got to remember, these are still kids. They're young professionals. And so they're still learning, and they're still but it's tough to win on the road, and that's why road records are so important. Try to scratch out at least one win on the road. You never want to get swept when you go on the road.
Yeah.
Try to win 2 out of 3 on the road. And so it all adds up to more points.
Especially for a team that's trying to get a top 8 national seed, you cannot afford to get swept this weekend. Scott Tabor.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I I'm sorry. And our home advantage is our fans. You know, the stadium is the stadium, but our home advantage is our fans, and players feed off that. Now, it doesn't make them throw harder, it doesn't make them run faster, and sometimes, like Gage Wood, sometimes he has to learn how to dial it back a little bit. You still have to throw within yourself. You can't all of a sudden go, I'm gonna throw a pitch I don't even know how to throw, but the fans are screaming at me, so I'm gonna figure that one out while I'm out there. You know, you got to still play within what your abilities are. But our fans are fantastic, and it makes a difference.
Yeah. Scott, we'll leave it there this morning. Former Arkansas College World Series pitcher Scott Tabor joins us every Friday. Scott, we appreciate the insight, man. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see what they do in Duty Noble the rest of the way.
All right, brother. Enjoy it. Go Hogs.
BetOnline.ag is your number one source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. Basketball, MLB, NHL hockey, right down to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games you can play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's BLEAV. BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.